I'll start first with the graphics. As you can see on screen, the environments and stuff are pretty damn impressive. Vehicle and gun models are all pretty nice, especially the military vehicles, and obviously all the weapons look pretty good even when you get close to them. Environments, as I said, pretty nice. As you can see here, it's a little bit different to what was just before. It's a lot darker, and it actually changes right now into more light. That's because when you move to different places on the map, the time of day setting changes. That's because the developers apparently wanted to make it feel specific for whatever area you're in, so pirates is nighttime, blah blah blah. However, there is a downside to the graphics. Some of the textures for ground detail and some of the buildings look well and truly unfinished, I must say. Pretty low res stuff. Character models for the main characters is great, but for the non-main characters, just NPCs, is pretty piss poor. But other than that, it looks fairly good. In terms of like graphical options, I was running the game on all max settings as high as I could. For whatever reason though, the game doesn't allow 1680 by 1050 resolution, which is what I have because I have a 22-inch monitor. It goes, I think it's 1280 by 720 is as high as it goes for widescreen, and it says it has 8 times anti-aliasing, but I really didn't see any evidence of that in the game. I'll move on now to the new things in the game. What you see here is the resource management that is in the game now. There are a whole bunch of money, airstrike and fuel options lying around in the game world, which once you get a helicopter pilot, you can mark them, throw smoke and call in whoever your pilot is, and he will come pick them up. So that adds to the game. And now because the game is based in Venezuela and the story is all about fuel, fuel is the major resource in the game. So if you want to call in an airstrike, or you want to get transport somewhere, like get your helicopter pilot to transport you to someone's base, you have to have fuel, so that means stealing it. So what you're seeing on the screen now is I just stole some fuel from a base. The base was, however, deserted. Another thing you'll find is just bundles of cash like that laying around. Usually it's about $100,000, which as the game progresses becomes more and more useless, because the amount of money we're talking that you'd be using to buy and sell things is a lot of money. However, you do have to wait around a little bit for that to happen.
I'm telling you, man, it's real hot.
In terms of actual gameplay, the game is really fun. It continues on with the same light-hearted style of gameplay in the first game. Pretty much whatever you do, any problem you encounter can pretty much be solved by blowing whatever it is up. This, however, of course, doesn't carry on everything. Sometimes for some missions you'll have to capture an objective, which will be a building or something, or use allied forces to capture that building, and obviously if the building's blown up, then, well, no good in capturing it. There are a few different more factions this time in the game. Those are UP, which is United Petroleum, which is the oil company. So obviously they have hired mercs that they use, and you're one of them. They're basically there to, look after the oil, keep the oil flowing at any cost. Then there's the PLAV, which is the pretty much the guerrillas. They're the usual, Viva la Revolution and all that kind of crap. You can work for them. They have some good stuff. All their vehicles and stuff, as you can see on screen here, that's one of their tanks. I just got called in. They're all, modified with spikes and all that sort of stuff. They look pretty cool, but then again, it is tech. All their stuff is, low tech from like the 70s or whatever it is. Next faction is the pirates, which, in terms of a faction, they're actually probably the weakest in the game, because you really don't have to deal with them if you really don't want to. To progress the story, you do have to deal with them at one point, but it's only once. Working for them really isn't any, bonus to you. They pay pretty much the same as anyone else for whatever mission, but there really isn't much fun to it, because it's on islands and there aren't many vehicles, and it's pretty difficult to get around, especially when you can't find a boat. The next faction is the AN, which is this game's version of the UN, which pretty much means Americans. And the next faction, the last faction, is China. There's also the VZ, which is the home army, which everyone's at war against, so there's you can't do any business with them anyway. But in terms of the factions, the AN and China, they don't show up until about 2/3 of the way through the game, and this is the point where the game really does pick up pace, because in the beginning of the game, where you're working for UP and the PLAV, they're pretty much just, sniping at each other and, secure these points and make sure these guys don't destroy the refinery, blah blah blah. It's really not that difficult in terms of missions, and as a way to, push along what you have to do, it's really not that convincing. But however, when the AN and China show up, this is when the game puts it into fifth gear, because what happens here is, obviously, as anyone can guess, when the American army and Chinese get into close contact, well, shit's gonna go down. So pretty much you start World War III, basically. But this all happens in Venezuela. The AN is there to protect the oil, or protect democracy, as they say, but it is very much apparent that they are going for the oil, and China is pretty much the same. They want oil for their people, blah blah blah. But this is where the game really picks up, because this is when the higher up support comes to you.
It's Jacobs! Hold your fire!
Unfortunately for the game, however, it is pretty buggy at this stage. So far as I can tell, no patches have been released. It's been out for about a week here in Australia, a little bit more in the US, so far as I can tell. But you're going to see things like, obviously, as you can see, like vehicles just in the air for whatever reason, civilians and stuff walking down the road, and then they'll just disappear, or someone will sink through the ground. Sometimes you're calling for support and it won't come. You call, your helicopter pilot to come pick up something, and he'll get stuck in between some trees or some crap, and then he'll be there until you leave the area. Just general stuff like that. Overall, though, the game is really, really fun. You pretty much, I don't think there is another game out there that will let you have so much fun just for mindless blowing shit up. And pretty much that's what the game is all about. For a rating, I think I'd give this game probably an 8 out of 10. Not a 9, because it is buggy and some of the stuff is a bit subpar, and it is a bit cheap at times, but not, a 7, because it is a good game, and if you look past all that sort of crap, it's really fun. Now, the game itself is not meant to be taken seriously. Now, I've seen a lot of other reviews where they've taken the game pretty seriously, and it's gotten poor reviews. But you have to figure out, when you're playing this, you're not meant to take it seriously. It's meant to be over the top. It's meant to be just stupid violence for no goddamn reason. Stuff is meant to be blowing up. The voice acting is meant to be funny, and it's meant to sound stupid. And that's just the way the game is. Just a tip for anyone who's going to play this game: you will die a lot. I'm about to die at the end of this video, but it is really good fun. Great.